Holy Moses, Judas, and Joseph. Holy Moses, Judas, and Joseph. Jesus Christ in today's gospel is confronted by his most vivid critics. And the criticisms that Jesus is responding to kind of fall under three broad umbrella types this morning. The criticisms of Holy Moses, Holy Judas, and Holy Joseph. Now, the key to understanding kind of where these criticisms are coming from is to notice that there is a slight but important shift from who's confronting Jesus. It goes from last week and the week before, from the crowds to a group called the Jews. Now, when we hear the Jews, it's important for us not to imagine a particular religious group or a particular ethnic group. In this context, it's more helpful to think of the religious establishment, the elite, or the inside crowd. So the voices of criticism are the insider voices. These are the people that think they know Jesus and the community's history a bit too well. So first, Holy Moses. Obviously, the reference to bread from heaven refers to Moses and manna in the wilderness. So they acknowledge that Jesus, yes, you fed us, 5,000 of us, very well with bread and fish, and it was a wonderful meal, but you did it once. Moses did it every day for years. How do you compare to him? How do you compare to that? Holy Moses is the criticism of comparison. And we've all done it before to discount somebody or someone or a new dimension of our own ministry. Pat and I, we are back to Weight Watchers. It took a long time, years, for us to go back, in part because no one could live up to Karen. Karen was our very first Weight Watcher trainer. And with Karen, I lost 25 pounds. And no one has ever done that for me since. Granted, I haven't worked as hard for anyone else that first time. But it was hard for me to kind of do what I needed to do because the person in front of me wasn't as good as the person I remember. We all have a Holy Moses in our life that might prevent us from doing something that we need to do, should do, or maybe just can do. The middle passage, the middle person, this middle critic, is problematic. Because this is the passage in today's gospel that seems to limit God's grace. That seems to put a limit on God's power and God's forgiveness. It's important for us to remember in that middle passage where the text is wrestling with who can be converted by Jesus. It's important for us to remember that John's community is wrestling with the problem of Judas. How can someone have followed Jesus have betrayed him? How can that happen? And so when we read exclusive passages like this one in John, it's important to remember that part of what's going on is the community telling itself, this is what happened to Judas. That people might be able to hear Jesus but they won't understand him because the Father won't allow it. It's a way of John's community of trying to make sense. How am I going to be different from Judas? Is it I? Could it have been me too? What's going to make me different from Judas? Too often we are too quick to weaponize these types of passages against other religions, against other Christians who don't believe or act or say the things exactly like we do. And too often we use these passages as weapons against ourselves, when we ourselves don't live up to the standards that we put up for ourselves. So, Holy Judas is that criticism that comes from our failures. The last one, Holy Joseph, is probably one of the more universal criticisms that we have, but can also be the most devastating. It's the criticism of familiarity. Oh, we know you. We know your parents. We know where you come from. We've known you since you were little. We know you, we know your kind. That type of dismissiveness that comes from familiarity. When the person thinks they know us, or when we think we know somebody else. That's the Holy Joseph complaint or criticism. Holy Moses, Holy Judas, Holy Joseph. We have these insider critics. And very often these are our inner critics as well. The criticisms that we come up for ourselves, and they freeze us and limit us and distract us from seeing something new, something different in somebody else, as well as in ourselves. It's the perfection of Moses, the failure of Judas, and the familiarity of Joseph. However, Brene Brown in Daring Greatly challenges us to not just dismiss these critics, but to invite them in and to make peace with them, to make peace with Holy Moses, Judas, and Joseph. Because when we do, they have something to teach us about accountability, about vulnerability, and about connection. These are the things that we can learn from our failures, our successes, and from our familiarity, our family, our heritage. I'd like to paraphrase a prayer that's attributed to Mother Teresa. And it goes like this. If you do your best, people will recall someone else doing it better. Do your best anyway. If you try something new or different, people will recall how it didn't work before. Do something new or different anyway. When you are true to yourself and who God has called you to be, people will get defensive and misunderstand you. Be yourself anyway. In the end, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. So don't waste too much time with the insider critics, with the inner critics. Invite them in, make peace, and learn from your successes, failures, and family, so that you might learn the values of accountability, of vulnerability, and connection. And then you can become the messenger of God's love that you are called to be. In the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.